Hey everyone, in this lesson we're going to talk about CSS manipulation. So now things are going to get more interesting because after some event happens, instead of just sending a message to the console or something through the alert function, we're going to actually change the CSS of some element. So we have this button here, so let's work with it. So we have this ID of color button. Let's just copy this and let's go to Visual Studio Code. So now we can just copy the code we wrote on the previous lesson. So here we just use the onClick event. Let's copy this without the comments. So like this, Control C, and now down here we can just paste it. So now the elements that we want to monitor events on is called color button. So when there's a click on this button, we are gonna do something. So this time we are not going to do the alert. So now let's just copy this selection method. So get element by ID again, but this time, instead of using an event or using the inner HTML property we've been using, let's just use the style property. And now inside here, we have properties for all the CSS properties. So if we want to change like the background color, we can just do it like this and then type background color. So why am I not using the dot notation? This is because I have a dash here. So this is not following the variable naming rules. So I cannot use dot for the background color. I can only do it like this. So then I'm going to change this property. So let's just pick a value like purple. All right, let's save this. Let's go back to our page. So when we refresh the page, when we click on the button, we can see that now the color is changing, which is really cool. So let's go there and let's do some more CSS changes. So this time I'm just going to copy this. And instead of changing the background color, I'm just going to use the transform property. So if you know CSS, you can change any CSS property from JavaScript. So in this case, the transform is just following the variable naming rules. So we can use the dot notation. So dot transform. And then just like we would write on the CSS, let's try translate X. So let's move the element to the left or to the right. So in this case, let's move it 100 pixels to the right. So let's save this. Refresh the page. When we click on the button, not only it's going to change the color, but it is always going to be moved 100 pixels to the right. Before we move ahead, just one thing that I want to show you. I just mentioned that since this property does not follow the variable naming rules because it has a dash, so we can only use the braces, but we can actually use the dot and use the lower camel case. So if you do background and then after the dash, every word should start with uppercase. So background color, just like this. Let's save this. Let's see if this works. Let's click the button. We can see that this is working. So this is just a workaround. So if you have a CSS property called font size. You can use the dot notation just by doing font size using the lower camel case notation. So I just wanted to show you this. And now just one last thing before we move ahead is that we can actually simplify this code. So I'm just going to copy this. For now, I'm going to comment all this code. So this is one way of writing it. So let's paste it here and let's just try to simplify this code. So as you can see, we are repeating this. So here we select the element, we select the element again and again, and we know that JavaScript is verbose, which means that we need to write a lot of code to get things done. So this is a very long statement, get element by ID, and then the ID of the element between parentheses. When I was starting out with JavaScript, I was a bit annoyed by this because the statements were very long, but we can actually simplify this. So since we just selected the element and we are setting an on-click element on it, when we go inside it, the element that is getting the event, which is this one, can be changed to the this keyword. So this, and here we can also use this. So the element that's receiving the event can be called inside the function as this. So let's save this and let's see if this is going to work the same way. So now I'm clicking on it and we can see that we have the same result. So this is one way of doing it, and I'm going to show you a different way because sometimes we want to apply a click event to an element, but then inside here, we just want to change another element. So there's another way of doing this. So let me just comment all this. And now what we can do is just creating a variable called button. And we are going to select this element. So now that we did this, we can just use the variable name. So we don't have to call this method every time. So now we can just use the name of the variable. So button.onClick, and then we can just do button.style, button.style again. So this is another way of doing this. Let's save this. Now refreshing the page and clicking on the button, we can see the same result. So let's try something different now. Instead of using the on-click button, let's just use the on mouse over. So let's see how this is gonna work now. So button.on mouse over. Let's save this. Refresh the page. So now we have the button. When we hover the cursor over the button, we can see that now the event has been detected and our function has been executed. So this changes everything we've seen so far because now we can monitor events on our page and then we can just send messages. We can change the CSS of any element. So this means that we can open and close menus. We can pass photos on a photo slider. We can expand or collapse sections. So this is the starting point of something that's going to be really, really cool. So that was all that I wanted to say for the moment. In the next video, we are going to learn a few more get element methods. I'll see you then.